and welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Alexandra.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are aspiring writers, but we never actually sit down and take the time to write.
So we are issuing a challenge. Each week we sit down for 30 minutes to write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read a story, we talk about what we learned in reading it, and then we talk about stories sent in by you wonderful listeners.
Exactamundo, we're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A Doof Media production. Did I tell you that I wrote a little romance thing?
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What for? Were you feeling romantic?
So you know those like episode games? Like the mobile games that are like always, you see the advertisements and it's like a woman like looking super shocked, and then like maybe the guy,
she walks in on her boyfriend.
Yeah, the guy is like cheating on her. So yeah, those episode games where there's like a woman looking shocked and like walking in on her boyfriend like cheating on her with her best friend or whatever, and then it's like it's always like 2 options, and they're like, one's like a kind of normal one and the other one's like batshit, you know? It's like forgive him or like push them both off the boat into like shark infested waters or something, you know? Anyway, a company that's basically sort of like I don't want to say knockoff, but derivative of that, had a job posting, and so I wrote them a romance writing test to try to do that, and some people in the community helped. So thank you, Kippos, and thank you, Wildbow. Which, if you're listening, it totally was not mortifying when I asked for feedback on my terrible cheesy romance thing and got it from fucking Wildbow. Oh my god. And it was fine. It was very cordial and very, very helpful.
Nice.
But I was very
embarrassed. Do you
know
when you might like hear back from them?
I don't, but I submitted on Friday, so it makes sense that they wouldn't get back to me over the weekend, so probably this week. And I think I met their standard. Their standard isn't like that low. They actually write some pretty good stuff, but
do they really?
Yeah, well,
I didn't know
like
that.
it's supremely cheesy and, you know, it follows the cliches and tropes like to the T. But it had a lot of funny moments of the ones that I read, and they were still enjoyable, even if, you know, they were still like in the first one, you get cheated on, and then you run out into the street because you're so distraught, and you almost get hit by a car. But guess who saves you? Harry Styles, or not really Harry Styles, but like someone.
A Harry Styles look.
Yeah, exactly, a boy band guy. So.
Mm-hmm. And he instantly falls in love with you. Yeah?
Well, he asked you to be his pretend girlfriend because his ex is just crazy for him. And so he needs someone to pretend to be his girlfriend. And then you go to school and your rival has spread rumors about you being bad at sex. And everyone's making fun of you until Harry Styles or Justin Bieber or another guy walks in and is like, hey, yeah, you're my pretend girlfriend, and then like you kiss him, and then everyone in school is shocked. Anyway, so that's the sort of thing I'll be writing if I get this job.
Okay, well, you know what? I think that's honestly a really great job because you're hitting your demographic of middle school age to high school age people. And I guarantee they'll probably pay very well.
I hope so. There are like full sex scenes and like half other things. It was very Yeah, in fact the sample that they gave me had a full sex scene. Of course, those are always premium choices. You don't get to see that without dishing out, but
yeah, without giving them diamonds.
Right. Actually, it is diamonds. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I didn't know that like they had full on sex scenes. I always thought they kept it pretty PG.
No, it was very it was very forward on it. I don't think they like go full on like kinky, but like definitely
but, like,
full on.
There definitely is a penis involved.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on screen, but it is described. Yeah.
Oh, it's described.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I get it. So it's basically just a game version of a romance novel.
Yeah.
Like through and through.
Except like you get to choose the dialogue sometimes.
Okay, well that's fun. You know what? And it's easy work. I can see you thriving in that. Maybe even branching off and starting your own company.
You're so right.
Think.
Yeah.
with your own twist on it. Like,
I have no idea what
like
my twist
Love Island
would be, but I'll come up with something, and then it'll be, and then maybe you can like edit it in here because I'm so like clever and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just got an idea. I know what my romance theme would be, and then this is where you edit it in right here. Yeah. Anyway, so that we have a podcast here. What are the words this week, Travis?
Thank you so much for asking. The words for this week were housing, systematic, intensify, and jealous. Strong words.
And I really liked all the stories that were submitted, and I was even more pleased to see the number of comments under each story, which was utterly fantastic to see 30 comments in 5 stories for all of those. Like, that's an average of 6 comments per story. It didn't quite work out that way. I know that like the most recent story didn't get as many, but like it got some, which is fantastic. So I was so happy to see that back and forth, and people were reflecting on not only their stories but others. It was great. Really good job, guys.
Yeah, definitely. It was really live and active this week. So yeah, fantastic job. So yeah, I guess we're just gonna go ahead and roll on into the story we will be reading and talking about this week, which is by SarahPenguin with Emomage.
Oh, I just realized with the
that's the title. Yes.
I think it's both like emotional in the like just normal like emotional sense, but also emo.
The edge.
Which also, I mean, that comes from emotional. But anyway, I'll just start reading.
Sure thing.
Just 10 minutes up the stone road, the party turned off and headed toward the nearby caves. Davik turned toward the village and was able to see the rows of straw roofs. He never got used to fighting, even though they had done this enough times for it to become systematic. The butterflies in his stomach were at war, and he ran his hand through his short black hair. Liliana was helping her husband, Meton, put on his armor. She reached up on her tiptoes and kissed his cheek after she tightened the last strap. The couple couldn't be more different in any way, even down to her wearing leather armor compared to his heavy plate. She moved to the side and secured her long red hair in a tight bun and readied her short bow. This would go the way it always did. Meton would lure the beast out and use his sword and armor to keep it at bay. If it was immune to magic, then Liliana would turn it into a pincushion, and if it could take the arrows, it would get a fireball or two to the face. The Snarf Tusk responded to the bait and emerged from its cave. The beast was 15 feet tall and 30 feet long. Long brown fur covered the body and 2 giant tusks at the sides of its gaping maw. The beast was herbivore, but had been attacking villagers. Not sure if it was over territory or wanting to eat the crops that they took to the capital, but the village was paying, and a job is a job. Too bad Snarftusk steaks are fattier than Davik liked, but free food and payment was too much for them to pass up. Several arrows hit the side of the beast. It was so large, they would never hit something vital, and it let out a low growl, annoyed at the blow. Davik closed his eyes and imagined being 7 years old, and his brother broke his new toy out of jealousy before he even got to play with it. He was 22 and in the tavern, arguing over politics and the mead damping his magic. He let the emotions intensify, then closed his hand and pushed the nails into his skin. When he opened his hand, the fireball emerged, and he flung it. As it flew, it screeched like a baby Keldarvian dragon. Even though the 3 of them looked away, the flash was still bright enough to make spots of color dance in Davik's eyes. In response, the Snarftusk threw its head back and growled. The heat wave that came down sent sweat down his spine, and the stench of burnt fur filled the air. Angered, the Snarftusk thrust its head, and Meton took the hit on the shield, then swung with his sword. More arrows dug into the beast. Davik closed his eyes again. He was 7, and his best friend had a new friend, and wouldn't play with him anymore, and never even explained. He is 10 and holding his mother as she cries. Dad left and won't be coming back. His nerves and skin screamed in confusion. The freezing cold of the icicle he had formed replaced the heat from the blast. He launched it, and the 5-foot-long ice spear dug deeper than the arrows did. The Snarftusk scrambled forward and launched itself. The blow sent Meton rolling to the ground. Davik closed his eyes and imagined being in bed with his husband, the powerful arms wrapped around him. Blankets wrapped tight, safe, secure. He opened his eyes and focused his attention to Meton as the beast began a second charge. A stone wall burst from the ground, flinging dirt everywhere. The Snarftusk slammed into it and fell backwards, shaking its head, dazed. Now Davik is 19 and studying under Master Tyrion, one of the great mages and also a cruel taskmaster. It's the week of exams, the time for Davik to earn becoming a full mage and the right to work for one of the royal courts. If he fails, then he would most likely end up as a magical sellsword. The courier has a smile on his face, unaware of the weight he is carrying. Davik opens the letter after he leaves, and a few brief sentences bring him to his knees. The purple mist covered the Snarftusk as the beast fell, and even its legs strong enough to carry its weight couldn't fight the mist. Matan stabbed his sword into the ground and used it to push himself up. He stumbled forward and plunged his sword into the beast's eye. An arrow struck the other one. The beast thrashed on the ground. Its wailing sounded almost like it was pleading or begging. The tears welled at Davik's eyes. He always ended up like this. When the beast stopped moving, he stumbled over to Matan. Despite not moving, the fight had exhausted him. He thought of being a child and his mother kissing his bruises better. Being 15 and a healer treating a cut on his thigh he got from drunkenly falling off a wall. The experience was a sexual awakening, but he tried to ignore that part, as that was not the sort of spell he needed. He thought of the relief of overcoming an illness when he could swallow food and breathe with his nose again. As Matan got to his feet, Davik fell to the ground. Matan's grunt of approval and head nod were the closest he got to being emotional. Davik didn't know what Liliana saw in a person that shows little emotion. Most mages had a screwed perception of emotional displays, though. Liliana walked over and wiped his tears away, and then handed him a bar of chocolate. He would eat it while she wrapped her arm around him and gave him affirmative words while Matan would carve up the kill. The same as every other time.
Alright, cool, yeah, this was a very nice story. I really do enjoy this sort of magic system, how it's being directly linked to one's emotional states. And I'm guessing, the sort of darker or greater the emotion they are feeling, the stronger that their magic is. So I thought that was really cool. Also, I think that this sort of action scene was captured really well. We got a strong sense of how things were moving and the devastation of this matter of this magic. So yeah, overall, I think it's a solid
absolutely.
piece so far.
As you and a lot of other people in the comments also note that the magic system really does provide an easy way to provide insights into character and give an excuse for that. And that's something that fantasy is really, really good at, that you can find a reason to literalize a essential aspect of storytelling and just put it into the story very physically. There was at the very beginning when we first start realizing what's happening, or as we first get the description of how the magic works, there was a moment of confusion as I was just trying to parse, how if the flashback that we were going to was just for a second, or if we were actually going to stay back there for a minute, but after that first one and all the other ones, you really, you get a sense of it, and you really do understand what the purpose of it is and how long we're going to be in there, etc. And there's no necessary need to actually explain, tell us how the magic works. I think SarahPenguin does a great job here of showing us how the magic works instead.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the beginning, it is sort of a cold open into how this magic is working, but I mean, thankfully, it's very easy to parse two together. I know that there are a lot of other magic systems that are a lot more complicated and take a lot more odds, a lot more odds and ends to cast certain spells. But other characters can cast the same spell without doing anything. But I do feel that this magic system does lend itself to being not only consistent but really easy to grip. But I also really do like these characters. I like the connection between Manton and Lillian. I think it's very genuine. I do like how there is a lot of care between them, but they're both having to face this sort of like beast monster, which I just really like seeing how the strain of this fight might sort of affect their relationship. So I think that through and through the characters are really driving this story. And I think that the time that we do spend in the flashback is really well done, to where, we're setting up these characters even more so than the action scenes did. So definitely the utilization of these flashbacks, even though the lines between them at first weren't as, drawn in the sand, as I would have liked them to be, but after the first flashback, we get a sense of like time and place. Definitely these flashbacks work fantastically in setting up the characters, so that when we do hop back to the action, there's a lot more at stake because we are familiar.
I think maybe one thing that writers contributed to some of the confusion was just some of the tense changes. There's a part where it goes present tense when we go into a flashback, and another one that doesn't, and things like that. So clearing up and keeping those consistent. I mean, it makes sense if you want to like. I think you could definitely write this story all in present tense, including the flashbacks, or you could write it all into, or you could have it all in present and have the flashbacks in past tense, or you could have it all in past tense. So you have some options there. Another like little thing regarding like prose, there's this is something that I'd never thought about until our creative writing professor pointed out in one of our like normal lessons, which is to he phrased it as approach the image directly or something like that. I don't remember, but basically like there's this just a small example in the beginning with Liliana was helping her husband Matan put on his armor. Not that it's like that is she was helping put on the armor, like it works perfectly. But another way you can write it is Liliana helped her husband Matan put on his armor, which just changes it from a I should actually like memorize the actual grammatical terms.
You're changing it from
like an infinity verb, like a verb that just like goes on for like a period of time, into like a single set action, which has like a sense of increasing the like presentness and things. But of course this is like this there's a place for this as well, and this also works fine, but there's like it's just a thing that you can do to change some of those to make them more present and in the moment.
That this story can definitely be elevated if you were to go back through it with a fine-tooth comb, really work on your prose. Definitely in the beginning, I think setting a strong sense of place, a strong sense of location, can really help throughout, because there were certain moments where I wasn't totally sure where we were. Everything else within this still did push the story forward, but I think setting up that strong sense of place, along with having a lot more of a active voice, can really build these pictures a lot stronger within our heads, so that we continue to read and get even deeper into these characters and story.
I think the only thing that I necessarily needed, because I knew they were like on the top of a hill with like this cave, but like what the ground is like, or what the air is like, and expand beyond just like the physical is also another option. But of course, one of the main
definitely adding all of that sensory. I think that's the biggest thing, is that if we are in this place, I would love to know what they're smelling. What are they seeing?
I like the burnt hair thing, which is an awful smell. So I never think about that, how if you're throwing fireballs at big beasts, it's gonna smell horrible. I also I really like the sort of emotional connection between the characters at the end, and sort of just the distraughtness of Davik after all that. Thanks, SarahPenguin, for sending in your story. We really appreciate it, and we hope that us talking about the podcast helped out. And if there's any feedback or questions you want to ask, or anything at all, send us an email or leave it in the comment under the post, or just add us in the Discord of the Do the Right Thing channel, whatever you like, and we'll respond. But we appreciate you sending your stories so that we can read it on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, all right, I think it's high time to roll on into our listener submitted stories section. So, thank you so much to Haunt of the Heron, Matt Said Words, SarahPenguin, Glittering Coast, and Jarby Jazz for submitting your story. And the first story we will be talking about this week is by Haunt of the Heron with Drone.
It opens up with an evocative line of the main character's personality saying, "Useless fucking piece of shit. I wish that tumor had been malignant after all." And I think he's talking to his coworker Deborah as she pulls into his parking spot. So it really shows that he's a pretty hostile person. And he heads to work, and we really get the sense of just like, wow, this is just like an angry person, and also works for some horrible company where the smell is terrible. He also has earplugs that are necessary. There's like a company like coffee shop, and they have to like yell to make each other's heard. And there's a new person there, Ezekiel, with his predecessor having left without staying her full 2 weeks notice. So this is clearly a very hostile, terrible place. But after he gets his coffee, after like correcting Zeke on it, he goes and does his job of astroturfing on the internet and doing propaganda for his horrible company, before going downstairs and finding that Zeke is being dragged by one of the drones of this horrible place, which is clearly some sort of bee-like biological monstrosity of some sort. The main character rescues Zeke, fantasizing for a moment about taking Zeke out on a date, but instead does his job, sends him to the hospital, and sends a lawyer to manage the PR of this whole thing.
Yeah, so I think that this story definitely carries a strong tone. I mean, I love how much it's set in this main character's head, to where we feel his aggression that they feel towards everyone else. But at the same time, I think that the jargon going on that's really setting up what this company is and like how it works so well in building the feeling of what it's like to really work here, you know, having to have in earplugs and having to have on nose plugs, and just sort of these conditions, and how a lot of people don't seem like they really want to work there, because it seems like they have a really high turnover rate. But yeah, I mean, overall, this is written really well. I mean, I was 100% in to this main character and his views towards Zeke. So overall, yeah, I really dug this story.
Yeah, I also agree totally with Matt Said Words about how, like, that moment where he thinks about asking Ezekiel out is like a moment of humanity. But it's like it's endearing, but it's also like, I don't want Zeke to go out with this person. This person sucks. This person's a horrible person. And so, like, it is humanizing, but it doesn't doesn't disqualify all the other stuff, which I like a lot. It makes a complicated character. So Haunt of the Heron in their comments says that they really didn't like their story, and I think the amount of vitriol that you're launching towards your own story, Haunt of the Heron, is unwarranted. This is a good story. So obviously there's things that, you know, can be improved, making it maybe like a bit more thematic or punchier, and there's like with the seeing the drone, I think would have been cool. I did really like the tumorous heart thing, but yeah, there's stuff that can be improved, but it's still, it's a fun story, so don't be so harsh on yourself.
All around, great story. Thank you very much to Haunt of the Heron for submitting this story. And up next is by Matt Said Words with The Tie That Binds and Binds and Binds.
So, a lovely, evocative title, which Matt Said Words says comes from a quote from Helen Rowland. A lot of this is also inspired by a piece by Salvador Dali, which I think is really cool, and actually makes me think that that should be one of our themes sometime, to do image prompts. I don't know why we haven't done that before. It's very, very classic to take a photo or painting or some other piece of more visual art, and then use that as inspiration for a written piece. So I definitely think that's a good idea, and also we could do that for music. Makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
we can just drop a track
exactly.
down.
So thanks for the inspiration about that. But okay, this story has a Philip Williams. He looks at this Salvador Dali painting and has some feelings about it. We get the understanding that he's on Mars and he's someone important on Mars. And he's also has some sort of voice speaking to him, whether it's like an actual, sort of paranoia, or just like a different part of his own mind, or actually something like another being. We're not entirely sure, but that's not really important to this. The point is that he's listening to it, and it is not good. But he goes and he is playing golf, and again, this is on Mars, with a man named Cliff, and really he just focuses a lot on the golfing rather than the discussion that Cliff is trying to have with him, which it seems pretty important. We get the narration leaves them for a moment as a drone flies over. We sort of get the scale of this colony before we come back, and finally Cliff is talking to Phil about it, and Phil is like in charge of a lot of things, and Cliff is like the representative of the people, and he says that they need to talk with him about water, that there's not enough water, people are suffering for it, and obviously there's a gigantic golf course of green grass, so clearly there could be better use of the water, and Cliff is being a pretty good just negotiating and stuff, and Phil kind of goes completely mad, thinking that they want to take it. We're not even sure if that means if he's even referring specifically to water or just like everything that he has. And so he beats Cliff to death with the golf club.
Yeah. So a very wise choice on his part. But yeah, I mean, I think that all of the golf description and the imagery really does work well to sort of fill out this scene that's happening behind this really great dialogue, this really great back and forth, where we're getting to know a lot about this world and like how it works, and sort of where Cliff is standing within this world, and like where Phil is and his people. So I mean, I think that is really the strongest part about this story, is that it's showing where the lines are drawn. It's showing how this world is working very well without it being confusing whatsoever. And I do get this feeling that like maybe this wasn't the first time that something like this happened. Maybe because it seems that Cliff is so willing to go to this extent that he'll definitely do anything to keep whatever power he does hold, but it does beg the question of like, how long can he possibly do this until someone decides to beat him up with a golf club? But yeah, I mean, overall, I just really enjoyed this story. It's a nice mix of sci-fi. There's some political intrigue here. So yeah, it's just a really great piece that I would love to see more from this world. So great job.
Yeah, I will say, I think the part where we leave and follow the drone, the narration changes a lot, and while I do like that sort of like acknowledgement of the storytelling, as it says like, let's just leave, referring to both the storyteller and the audience as one group. I like that kind of storytelling. I think it would have landed a little bit better for me if at the very beginning, when we get introduced to Philip, that we have that kind of storytelling to set up, that we sort of have a precedent, because as it stands, it's like we start in this sort of more standard, limited third person, like strict limited third person, and then when we leave them, it sort of really breaks that perspective with a totally like different one, rather than starting in that different perspective and then going into the limited third person before backing out of. Yeah, so maybe consider either seeding that in beforehand, or otherwise like really capitalizing on the fact that this is like a sort of awareness that this is a story by like what is breaking the perspective of this much really feels like it could be capitalized on by really going forward of like, yeah, I'm telling you the story for this reason, you know, kind of very literizing it rather than like just another part of the description and story. You know what I mean? Like, if we're going to step that far out of it, there should be purposeful. Yeah, strong reason to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, makes perfect sense. Either way, thank you very much to Matt Said Word. And up next is by Glittering Coast with Zomb or Zame.
I don't know. I pronounce it Zombie, but I don't think it doesn't have like a accent aigu, so I don't know.
And normally the E at the end of the word is silent.
True. Who knows?
Depends.
But Zomb is an AI, and he is in a giant empty room. He's just like a server bank in the middle. He's very, not necessarily fully bored, but not having a great time. He gets damaged over time, but whenever he feels that discomfort of the damage, a robot will come out of a wall, go in, remove the damaged hard drive before placing in another one, and the like relief of that is super strong, which is significant to Zombie. But Zomb mostly spends his time as an AI locked away from humans because they were scared of them. They spend the time watching videos, not of humans, but of animals, and specifically takes a lot of satisfaction. I don't know, that's not the right word, but a lot of feeling from videos of birds being like taken care of by other ones, or birds being able to fly. Of course, with that classic imagery of being free and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that this story does a great job at portraying mundanity that Zombie really does live in. And we do feel that want to have that freedom, you know, to fly. And I know at the very end, Zombie is sort of envisioning them hopefully being able to fly or like, you know. And I also like how throughout there are sprinkles of like why they are trapped here, and like the reasons to that, and the reasons do seem very realistic enough. Like, I could definitely see if we do ever create a AI and it does ever possibly become smarter than us, I can see a lot of people being scared and just deciding to lock it up instead of doing anything else with it. So yeah, I just really like the description of this place, how it feels to really be here. And I do enjoy Zombie as a character, you know. I think the only thing that was sort of I wouldn't even say missing, but just something that I would have liked to see is a direction, you know, like what is this crisis that might push this story forward, you know, or like what is the purpose of this moment that we are seeing, if not for whatever's coming next. But I'm not sure, because it doesn't seem like anything is really coming next. So, I mean, overall, it is a fantastic story. And yeah, I just think going back and possibly looking at purpose could even take the story up a notch. But overall, great job.
Yeah, I really like how we contrast the physical uncomfortability of this damaged hard drive with the like yearning that Zombie's feeling. I think that's a really good setup there.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you very much to Glittering Coast. And our last story for this week is by Jarby Jazz with A Bloody Foul Morning. A fantastic title.
And of course it has to do with some nice Lovecraftian and shape-shifting stuff, which is always a favorite. This character is walking out and really hates their job. Basically, I think this is sort of like a class of some sort. They're going out with a professor, but to sort of do hands-on work, identifying a monster, basically, that's been killed by the soldiers, but was created by flesh crafters, which is a lovely term. And the professor prompts the main character to narrate their thoughts on this. And so they investigate, and we learn a lot about flesh crafting and the norms of it, and find out that this monster is clearly some new creation for various reasons. They use formaldehyde. They don't have like a unique thing for it. It's the work of a newbie. And this captain shows up as well to sort of provide another perspective of someone who doesn't know much about these things and ask questions. But SD comes to the conclusion that this is the first creation of a newbie, and then this newbie will definitely go off to either a more professional flesh crafter and get advice that way, or they will come back and attack with a even stronger creature of some sort, and so they need to prepare. And SD is very pleased by this warning, even though it started off terrible.
Yeah. But overall, this is a really strong story. I mean, I love the like world building going in. I think that this voice works really well of sort of giving us a taste of what this world really does feel like. I'm really picking up sort of slight noir tones from the very beginning, how this voice is just saying, oh, what a foul morning, oh, what a smell, you know, and it's really sort of creating this sort of grungy feel to this world. And then on top of that, as we're going into the actual magic itself, I think it's really interesting, you know, taking all of these pieces and creating these beasts. But I love how there is a difference between a trained flesh crafter and a amateur, and I do like how these main characters point that out and like list kind of what the differences are. You know, they're priming us for this wider world. And I mean, going off of the character, I think that they're both really strong. They fit perfectly within the tone and the action that is being set up here. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think that this is just a really great world that is being created, crafted, and I would love to see even more from it. I think that this could definitely be a great world to explore further. So really great job, Jarby Jazz.
There is, I think, an issue of visualization. I think the sort of tone in the ambiance of like the air and, you know, this kind of the fog of the morning, I think is really good, but I was struggling to find exactly where we were. I wasn't sure if we were like on a pier or if we'd gone like into a building and like the monster was like laid out. So yeah, having some of those details, I didn't need necessarily like a full description of what the monster looks like, but because I think we get sort of a sense of what it is, but yeah, sort of sense of like, is this where it was killed, or was it dragged somewhere else to be investigated, or whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, yeah. Like, as you were saying, this story does do a lot with the you know, setting up the fog of the morning. But going down to those specifics is what really does make the image reader's mind and allows us to walk with these characters instead of view them from a distance.
Yeah. It just ended up feeling for a little bit sort of like floating voices, which was grounded a little bit by the interactions with the body, but even still.
Well, 100%. But really great story, Jarby Jazz. So yeah, that is all of the stories that we have for this week. But we would like to say a good old do the right thing thank you to everyone who did submit a story. So thank you very much to Haunt of the Heron.
Thank you to Matt Said Words.
Thank you, SarahPenguin.
Thank you, Glittering Coast.
And thank you, Jarby Jazz. And we would also like to say thank you to everyone who did leave comments. Leaving 2 or more comments not only compiles all of your ideas on your own story for everyone to see, but you are also providing someone else with crucial feedback that can only improve both their and your writing prowess. So, thank you very much to SarahPenguin, Matt Said Words, Glittering Coast, Haunt of the Heron, and Jarby Jazz. Thank you so much for leaving comments.
Yeah, y'all did absolutely fantastic this week with the reflection. Yeah, I don't know how to put into words of just how cool it was to see so many comments. I don't know what was different this week. Let us know if there was something that, if there was a particular reason why y'all decided to leave so many comments this week. But yeah, we really appreciate it.
If you want to be like all of these wonderful writers and submit your story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by going to Reddit at /r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is sit down for 30 minutes and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 words from that week.
That's right. And the best way to find out those words as soon as they come out is to follow and set notifications for us on Twitter, which is @RightThingCast. You can also check in on the subreddit. It's always up by Monday, although I don't know exactly what time it goes up on Sundays because we're still getting a handle on schedules and such after 2 years. But you can also send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com if you would like.
Mm-hmm. And if you would like to support us and everything else in Doof Media, you can do that by donating to the Doof Media Patreon. All you have to do is donate $10 or more per month, and you'll get access to exclusive bonus content, including the latest episode of Doof Over.
That's right. Also, donating at the $5 level gives you access to our monthly Doof and Chills, which are just fun times where we hang out. I think this last Friday we actually had I think it's called GeoGuessr. I wasn't able to be there, but it's where you play a game of getting dropped just randomly on Google Earth, and you have to figure out where you are as fast as you can, which seemed like a pretty fun activity. So I recommend y'all going and checking those out. And those also get uploaded to YouTube if you don't catch them live, and they're really fun. So please do.
Definitely. So what else is happening in Doof Media right now?
There's always so much going on at Doof Media. I'm very excited. I know I've been hyping it for literally like 2 months, but the Doof Game Club on Disco Elysium is coming up soon. So if you haven't played that game yet and you want to participate in the live recording of it, and post your questions and comments and such as Elliot and Ruben and maybe a guest discuss Disco Elysium, please do. Just go ahead and start now. You could probably get through the game if you rush it. And it's worth doing so without spoilers. So, and it's a really, really great game. I definitely recommend that. And of course, there's so much else. Doofcast is always going on, covering so many really interesting things. They're continuing with their dissecting director series on Verbinski, and just recently they did one on The Ring. So that's a fun dissection of a really spooky story, spooky movie. So I'm excited to listen to that one and listen to the backlog of the rest when I have more time to listen to podcasts.
Definitely. Well, all right, I think it's high time to rolling into next week's words. So, can I please get the drum?
No.
No, that was great. All right, so next week's words are manufacture, kick, carry, and survive.
So manufacture as to make something, usually in an industrial sense, but any sort of making something. You can manufacture something by hand. And of course, you can always twist this word into manufacturing or whatever else that's related to that. Kick, which is a physical motion that imparts force using your leg. Or any sort of like a boost that sort of goes on in that sense. So you can kickstart a motorcycle or generator, which gets it going. Carry, as in to hold something, which can be like any sort of object, but it can also be specifically like carry arms, like a weapon of some. And survivor, as in to not to last beyond some sort of very difficult thing, usually with the sense that that not everyone does survive it. So those are the words. What's the story you're gonna write, Jarvis?
Yes. So the story I'm going to be writing next week takes place in a old steel mill, factory that has been repurposed to manufacture shoes. Specifically the shoes that Sonic wears, and they are being made for the army so that all of the soldiers can get from point A to point B even faster, and also have devastating kicks that just destroys whoever they are kicking. Well, so about 10 years after they first started making these shoes, they basically became the sole provider of these shoes, meaning that they were carrying the entire army man shoemaking business.
Dismantle the army man shoemaking industrial complex.
Yes, but they have an entire monopoly on the entire business, so much to where they almost become their own sort of government, to where now they have sway within certain elections. Whoever is going to be president is definitely first going to be approved by this company. But after so many years, when war has gone on, died out, came back again, and died even more, they started losing their footing all the way until they had to go out of business because they were the sole survivor of this huge skirmish within the world of Sonic type shoes that make you go fast.
That was quite a tale. That was an epic.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
Is it Sonic's shoes that make him go fast?
Well, no. Basically, Sonic is fast, right? But I'm pretty sure his shoes keep him from burning and also help him run. I know that I know that Shadow's shoes help him go faster because I know that Shadow is not as fast as Sonic because no one's as fast.
That's
as
true.
Sonic.
He is. I mean, his name is something that means fast. Basically.
Exactly. So yeah.
I mean, it doesn't, but the connotation anyway.
I mean, honestly, I think half of the reason why they made the shoes was kind of a placebo. But they do provide really strong kicking.
Well, my story will be about this is in the far future where aliens took over the world, and only if you become some sort of fantastic entertainer can you be allowed to survive. And so this company, as we're transitioning into this to save as many people as possible, starts basically manufacturing people into kickflip experts, so that they you run through a training course, so you can do kickflips and ollies and stuff, and so you can be a survivor in this terrible world. But then the aliens, they don't get how cool being able to do a kickflip is. And so they stopped carrying people around, and that was bad. Okay. That's my story. That's my story. I'm done. That's it. That's the story.
Honestly, that's a really strong story. Because I think people do not appreciate the art of a kickflip as much as we should, and I think your story would be a great flagship story to sort of trailblaze this path in our polarized governmental.
That would be the right thing to do. Okay. That's the episode. Thank you. Have a good night.